Today is Wednesday, January 11th. I call this meeting to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a word of notice to the board. The lights aren't working, so if you guys need to say something, please just indicate with your hand or give me a thumbs up or fireworks, whatever works for you. Yeah. This one doesn't come off though. All right, item 1.04, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo and seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes unanimously. Item 1.05, ceremonial swearing in of the governing board members. I'd like to invite Mr. Miller and Ms. Ewers and myself, Charlotte, you're welcome to come, down to in front of the dais for us to be sworn in.
Okay. Hang on. Okay. This is just ceremonial. I know you all have been officially sworn in. So repeat after me. I state your name. Oh yeah, sorry, raise your hand. Right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona. Oh, sorry, you're supposed to be repeating. I'm sorry, it's been a long time since we've done this. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of Governing Board Member for Tempe Elementary School District. Sorry, that's long. According to the best of my ability. So help me God.
All right, thank you all for being here. For those of you who came out in support of our new board member and us old ones. Item 1.06, reorganization of the 2023 Governing Board, election of the president. May I have a nomination for our new president? Ms. Ewers.
I know that our board had kind of made a commitment that every single one of us will take a year and then transfer to somebody else for the next year. But Charlotte, you've done an incredible job representing the board and representing our students. And with the commitments that I have this year, I'd love to nominate you for one more year, if you don't mind. And you got me as your backup. So I would like to make the nomination of President Charlotte Windsor for one more year.
And may I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Ms. Trejo for the nomination of myself for board president. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will do it. Thank you all. And I'm just going to say thank you for having faith in me to do this again. And for Jim and Monica for being so patient with me. Item 1.07, reorganization of the 2023 Governing Board, election of Vice President. May I have a nomination? Ms. Trejo.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to nominate Ms. Allison Yours for Vice President this year and look forward to another year of your leadership and growing new leadership and other leadership as well. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Trejo and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes unanimously. Nice to have you on board, Ms. Yours. All right, item 2.01, approval and modification of the minutes for the December 21st Governing Board meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And one abstention? Because you weren't here. It's okay. It's okay. So item passes 4-0 with one abstention. Item 3.01, presentation of Charlotte Windsor.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Now that I just learned that we'll be doing this again next year at this similar time in the year, I want to take this time to say thank you for your work that you've done over this past year. On behalf of 11,000 students, over 1,000 employees, we appreciate your work as we navigate it through renaming of schools, AEL Part 1, and giving significant raises to all our employee groups. We know that it is a thankless job for our board members, but we really do appreciate your work and your tireless efforts to help our district make our community proud, our city, and most importantly for our students. So with that, I have this award that I will, I guess, walk down and give.
Can we do a weird photo op? Sorry. I'm just like camera happy now. All right, it's the official. Thank you guys.
I'll see you next year. Now we have to get a different one, though.
They could be bookends.
That's right. Thank you very much, Dr. Driscoll and everyone. And just so you know, I don't feel like it's a thankless job in Tempe Elementary. You guys are all very gracious. Thank you. 3.02, presentation of open meeting law. Mr. LL.
Good evening, Governing Board, and welcome to your annual refresh on the open meeting law. For several of you, I'm sure you could be in my place giving the presentation. Thankfully, nothing new statutorily this year. The legislature did not play with the open meeting law, but there are a few areas I want to emphasize that just became issues that we were seeing investigated, particularly with school boards over the last year. But getting started, what is the open meeting law? Why do we have it? ARS section 38.431.01A through 38.431.09. And it really is to protect and inform the public, to make sure the work of the government is done in public, transparently, to build trust between the government and its citizens. And our public policy requires that not only do we do the work in public, but we go above and beyond to make sure that work is accessible to the public. Any uncertainty will resolve in favor of doing it in an open and public meeting. Legal resources, if you want to read the statutes, there's only about 10 of them. They're not the densest of reading. They're certainly better than Title 15. Also, the Arizona Agency Handbook, which I've linked, has not been revised in any significant way over the last year or so, but it is available on the AG's website. I probably will check that link with the new AG's office coming in. I don't believe they've changed it, but I will check. Who does it apply to? It applies to any public body, which includes the legislature, all boards and commissions, political subdivisions, which is where school districts fall in, to this long definition. It also applies to all quasi-judicial and standing, special, or advisory committees or subcommittees of the public body. And this has been an area of focus, particularly from the last Attorney General's office, and we'll be interested to see with the new Attorney General coming in whether this continues to be an area of focus. What does it mean to be an advisory committee of the governing board? Does that include what are we would normally consider administrative committees of the superintendent's office? So our general definition, what the Council of School Attorneys agrees, not necessarily the past Attorney General agreed, is that these types of subcommittees are ones that are appointed by the board that report directly to the board, as opposed to committees created by the superintendency or by the administration to do the work of the district. So as I said, hold your breath, keep an ear open, and I will let you know as we hear from the new AG's office how they want to evaluate this question. A meeting under the law is a gathering in person or through technological means. So phone, fax of a quorum, a majority of the board for you 3 members, to discuss, propose, or take legal action, including deliberations. If you don't have a quorum, you don't have a meeting. So if 2 members are there, it's not a meeting. You can't meet. Anything you do is null and void. If you start a meeting with a quorum and then people have to leave, the meeting should end at that point. Discuss, propose, or take legal action. These are not defined anywhere in statute, so we'll just apply the normal meaning. I think proposing legal action is one where sometimes you get caught up, what does it mean to propose legal action? Really discussing anything that might come before the board for you to take a vote on would be a proposed legal action. Notice, we must conspicuously post notice online and tell people online also where we'll post physical copies. Notice must be provided at least 24 hours in advance of a meeting. And if there's a technological problem that if your website goes down and you can't post the online notice, as long as you've posted physical notice, you can still meet at that point. Notice is required at least 24 hours in advance to all members of the board and also to the public. And you wouldn't think you would have to say that it has to be to all members of the board, but you haven't seen how some boards operate outside of Tempe. There are 3 exceptions to your 24-hour notice requirement. One is for actual emergencies. The second is for a continuation of a previously noticed meeting that was recessed. So those are your 2 where you can do less than 24 hours. And then ratification of action taken in violation of open meeting law, that actually requires 72-hour notice. So if you do happen to have a meeting in violation of open meeting law for whatever reason, you can ratify the actions that were taken. You just have to provide 72-hour notice. And this actually did happen to us during COVID down at Kyrene, where our web streaming wasn't working. So we were meeting, we were having a lovely time, and then we found out, well, no one else knew what we were doing. So we ended up coming back and ratifying all the actions in a meeting after the fact. Recess and resume meetings. You are allowed to recess and resume a meeting if for whatever reason your meeting is running terribly long and you all need to go home and get some sleep. Just make a statement during the notice public meeting about when you will resume the meeting, make a posting, and you can resume at that point. And that can be with less than 24 hours. Social events, well, if more than a quorum may be present, we post a courtesy notice just to let the public know we are aware that a quorum of the board is going to be somewhere, but that no business of the board is going to be discussed. Perception-wise, I always advise that board members should avoid being seen talking with each other as a quorum, or if you're going to do that, make sure you have witnesses who can attest to the fact that you were just talking about what wonderful weekends you've had, and nothing about board business. Agendas, we post our agenda at the same time we post our notice. It includes what matters will be discussed, considered, or decided. And they must be detailed enough to allow the public to reasonably understand what you're going to be discussing. And this is another area where during COVID times in particular, we had the Attorney General really evaluating meeting agendas to say, did they properly provide notice to the public of what the board was going to be discussing? And I know at least one or two school districts kind of got some nasty grams about vague public postings. The meeting agenda does not necessarily have to contain every attachment in final form. If you're negotiating a contract and we're waiting on like final revisions, but it's important, we can post that this is the contract that's going to be considered and post it after the fact. We try to give as much notice as possible for those things, and we're usually have final contracts well before a meeting would be posted or we pull them. Minutes are supposed to be posted within 3 days of the meeting. This doesn't happen anywhere. We avoid this by posting a recording as either an audio or videotape, and we usually have that posted within 24 hours to the website. But your contents of minutes, this did get some minor changes a few years ago. Just these are what I would consider skinny minutes: date, time, and place, members who are present, who's making motions, who's voting for motions. Nothing too crazy. Your minutes are always in good shape. The public's rights to attend the meeting, they are not required to sign in. You can have a sign in just so they can identify themselves if they want more information, perhaps. The public is not permitted to speak unless the public body allows it. You do have an open call to the public generally, and we'll get to that in a few slides. If they do make a presentation or speak during open call, they must identify themselves, and that's so we can properly record it in the minutes. Cannot disrupt proceedings, but I always advise make a good record before removing someone. A few warnings usually suffice. You can limit the speaking time of each speaker, and again, we'll discuss that with open call to the public. So your calls to the public, they are optional. Your board policy actually calls for it. So if you were to stop call to the public, you would suspend the board policy. It's BEDH. That does that. These calls to the public are on non-agenda items. So avoid the pitfall of ending up discussing what has been discussed in an open call to the public. The public body's response is limited to directing staff to investigate the matter, a direct response to criticism, which I don't recommend, or scheduling the matter for a future meeting. And they are subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Generally, that's 3 minutes. I know at the other 2 districts I represent, we have staggered based on how many blue cards, or I don't know what color your cards are. Blue here? Okay. They're not blue everywhere. I think of them as blue. But we stagger it, and that's acceptable. It's under your policy. You can do that as well. So if you had 70 people show up, you could further limit the time so that everyone gets an opportunity to speak, but you're not here till 2 in the morning. The public is allowed to record the meeting if they so desire, and you should really only restrict that if they're interfering with the conduct of the meeting. Moving on to executive session. Executive session are non-public portions of a public meeting. There are 9 reasons you're allowed to have an executive session under statute. They're listed here: personnel matters, legal advice, litigation or contract negotiations where you're providing direction to the attorneys representing the public body, employee salary discussions. Haven't had to do any international tribal negotiations yet. Purchase, sale, or lease of real property, school safety operations plans or programs, or security plans, procedures, assessments, related to facilities controlled by the public body, including information technology. So when we're talking safety plans, the security of our buildings, we don't have to do that in a public meeting to tell people how we secure our buildings. With executive sessions, just because you can, should you, there's always the question of the public perception versus your actual need. And, I communicate with Dr. Driscoll and Ms. McDaniel, Ms. Windsor, if you're considering an executive session to do an evaluation of is it appropriate and what we would want to do. Legal advice is a discussion or consultation with attorneys for the public body. This is not just any attorney. If you were going to do a training with, let's say, the attorney for ASBA to come in and speak to you, he is not your attorney, so it would not be appropriate to do that in an executive session. And it is an exchange of communication between the lawyer and client. The members are not making discussions between themselves. It's really about asking for legal advice from the attorney, and we distinguish that from discussions and instructions regarding litigation or contract negotiations. Taking legal action is not done in executive session with the exception of student discipline, unless the parents of the student request that's done in a public meeting, or providing direction to attorneys for litigation strategy or contract negotiations. So anything else you're discussing in executive session that requires board action, you end up coming out. We have a separate action item to do that in the public. No straw polls in executive session. So if you have to take an action, you're coming out to vote, and voting, discussing how you'll vote here in the public boardroom. Pitfalls, things in executive session are confidential, so failure to keep it. Having individuals present who are not reasonably necessary, in addition to the members of the board, your attorney, if you're doing legal advice, you are allowed to invite into executive session the individuals reasonably necessary. So if you have an HR issue, a personnel issue, your assistant superintendent of HR can be in attendance. Failure to advise person's presence about the confidentiality requirement, we make an admonition, we put that in the minutes, and we write that right into the script. Executive session minutes are separately kept from your regular minutes. They can be accessed by members of the public body, including members who were not able to attend the executive session. They can be an officer appointed to your employee who is the subject of the meeting. So if you're having an employment discussion, that employee can have access to the executive session minutes. The attorney for the public body, the auditor general, the attorney general, or the court if they're investigating potential violations of the open meeting law. So public does not have access to executive session minutes, and that's why we keep separate tapes and minutes. And that also allows us to do quick release of the audio and video of our open session without having to wait to do redactions or cut out the executive session. So we avoid open meeting law violations by not doing all those things we just talked about not doing. Don't discuss among a quorum the business that should properly be happening in this room. And I read board business broadly, and I think that's how it's intended to be under the statute and under Arizona policy. Circumvention, serial communications, we can't have a meeting with less than the quorum, but we can try to work around it sometimes. We see people, member A sends an email to member B, who sends the email to member C, and all of a sudden we have a quorum discussing, and that's the reason why if we're sending you information, we will generally BCC the board so that if you accidentally hit that reply all button, you don't actually reply to a quorum of the board, you reply just to the individual who sent it. And that really applies to these one-way emails from staff. It is appropriate for Dr. Driscoll to send an email to the board or Ms. McDaniel to send an email to the board telling them this is an issue that we're going to discuss, here's your board packet, here's a board memo, things of that nature. Just make sure once you receive that, you're not forwarding it to a quorum of the board. Just that one way. You can respond directly to the individual, but not everyone. Meeting etiquette, this is, again, the perception of violations, not necessarily that it is a violation. Whispering between board members, passing notes between board members, having little quorum meetings with members of the public before or after a meeting. If it's about the business of the public body, it might not be a violation, but it might look like a violation. I would add to this texting on your cell phone. It's very hard not to be on your cell phone these days. I understand. I am addicted to mine. But I've actually represented a board where the executive director and the president of the board were texting questions and issues during the meeting. And the people in the audience saw it, and it became a big issue for those two people. So your violations, if you take action in violation of the open meeting law, it's null and void. It is as if it doesn't happen. Investigations are authorized by the Attorney General or County Attorney. They can issue investigative demands, basically requests for documents. They can conduct examinations under oath, which look a lot like depositions, require written statements under oath, and they may file enforcement actions in the Superior Court. The civil penalties for violating the open meeting law, the Attorney General is authorized to commence lawsuits regarding violation, and each person who knowingly violates the law or who knowingly aids, agrees to aid, or attempts to aid another is subject to these potential penalties, $500 for the first and second offense and up to $2,500 for third and subsequent. These are fines paid by the individual, not the public body. So these come out of, all those fat paychecks you receive for serving on the board of $0. And the court may choose not to find an individual who might otherwise be liable if they can show that they objected. So if you do have perhaps a non-quorum and one of the people is saying we can no longer do this and they can show it, the statute actually says the court can find that person non-liable. And with that, I have done my speed refresh of the open meeting law, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Trejo.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you again, Jordan. Those of you who are not here every single year, we have this meeting with this very presentation every single meeting for the last 23 years. How many years has it been?
Longer than I've been the Tri-District Council.
Yeah, so I just appreciate that. We have a new board member, and I know this is the second time at least learning about OML. I know he went to new board member orientation, so just thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation. Item 3.03, presentation and introduction of the 22-23 interest-based negotiations team.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. So our IBN team, I'm here tonight to introduce the team. Fortunately, our team is not changing from last year, and so there's consistency. But of course, with our new board member, I wanted the opportunity for everyone to have a face with a name. I'm very proud of the work that our interest-based negotiations team has taken on. Although it seems like just yesterday, this is my 8th year overseeing the interest-based negotiations process. It's a great process under the guidance of the superintendent. The team comes together. We talk about salaries, benefits, working conditions, and how we can improve our district. Every individual in this district, all staff members have a voice. That voice is through the IBN survey that goes out annually. The team does come together. We disseminate all the information within the survey, and then of course then we come together to talk about what priorities we have for the district and what recommendations we can make to the superintendent and ultimately the governing board. So we really do have a great team. So I'll have the opportunity to have them stand and be recognized. I think we have a couple people who couldn't be with us tonight, but the two teams that represent, we have our district administrative side, and we have our TEEA, which is the Tempe Elementary Education Association. And so both teams come together and take care of this process. So again, I'll introduce our team. We have myself, we have our amazing CFO, Eric Thompson. We have Principal of Thew Elementary School, Mr. Nate Maruka. Yeah. We also have Miss Vernice Sharp, our principal of Nevitt Elementary School. We are the individuals that compose our TD3 administrative team. On our TEEA side, we have Mr. Darren Gonzalez, who is our IT customer support manager. Stephanie Roman, who is our STEM specialist. Miss Deb Pardee, science teacher at Conley Middle School. And we have Kelly Trujillo, is she here? No. She is a student achievement specialist assigned at Aguilar. So the team is together, so the nice part is when we come together this year, we can kind of hit the ground running and tackle the issues that come. So I just want to say thank you guys again for making that commitment. Being part of IBN, it does pull you away from, most importantly, the students, pulls you away from your building, your departments. And so we have, over the years, tried to streamline as much as we can to have a really fair process. But I want to just say it so that everybody knows. Every TD3 employee has a voice. The survey is that vehicle. We don't know who says what unless you specifically say your name and your position within the district. So again, we make those decisions. We're proud of the work. We've been participating in this process for over 20 years, so very successfully. And so we hope for another successful IBN season. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mankini. And I'd just like to add that beyond just the survey, at the end, if I correctly recall, all employees get to vote or ratify the decision that the IBN team made. And I have never seen nor participated in something like that before. And I don't think I've ever seen any more than 3 dissenting voices in the, 11,000 employees that we have. So it's a wonderful process. I appreciate all the effort you guys put into it. Item 4.01, we have no blue cards, so we will skip to 5.01, Celebrate Excellence. And Dr. Driscoll, turning over to you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to share with you a few points for Celebrate Excellence. Tempe Elementary School is proud to offer exceptional elementary and middle school options for families to choose from. Enrollment for the 2023-2024 school year begins this Thursday, January 12th. To kick off this event, all TD3 elementary schools, including Meyer Montessori, Cecil Shamley School, and Ward Traditional Academy, will host an open house and enrollment opportunities between 5:30 and 7 p.m. The following week, our comprehensive middle schools will begin hosting their open house events. Any family who cannot make it to these open house events will have the opportunity to request a personal tour throughout the rest of the school year. I would like to thank all our school leaders, teachers, and staff for dedicating their time to showcase their schools and promote enrollment for the next school year. We look forward to welcoming families to our incredible schools. And I see out in the audience my person that helps me, so that is a violation. But I go to the public. I have an employee who helps me with pronunciation of people's last names and first names. Is that a violation of open meeting law? I can do that? Okay, so I see that she's here today. I was a little nervous, but I practiced. I think I have this one. The Arizona K-12 Center recently announced that Arizona is home to 74 new National Board Certified teachers and that 181 National Board Certified teachers maintained their certification. Included in this exceptional group of educators is Heidi Weinman, 4th grade teacher at Fuller Elementary, who has newly achieved MBCT status, as well as Caitlin Marie Gowalski, who maintained MBCT status. Congratulations to both of you for your commitment to enhance teaching practices, ultimately bettering supporting TD3 students. And then this last one, Fuller third grade students were recently featured on a Fox 10 news segment in which they were asked, what did they want to do? And they're playing a video, they're getting quick. All right, I like it. I like it. Their answers ranged from purchasing private jets to traveling to Puerto Rico, but one thing all of these students had in common was that they would give back to their families and their community. At this time, please play that video.
Well, if you're feeling lucky, today could be your day to win more than $1 billion. Yeah, the Mega Millions jackpot now stands at $1.1 billion.
Can you think of this? $1 billion on a jackpot.
I know. It's incredible. That's the third largest jackpot in Mega Millions history. And if there's a winner in tonight's drawing, they would take home an estimated cash prize of more than $580 million. Now, more than $1 billion, it's hard to imagine for most adults, let alone children.
But we caught up with some third graders at Fuller Elementary in Tempe who've got some interesting takes on what they would do with the cash. Fox 10's Danielle Miller stopped by to find out how they'd spend it.
Although the students here at Fuller Elementary School in Tempe aren't old enough just yet to play the lottery, they are old enough to dream about what they would do with all that money. The Mega Millions jackpot soaring to more than $1 billion. This after Friday night's drawing yielded no winners. That is a lot of money, especially to some local third graders. And if you had that much money, if somebody says, hey, you just won $1 billion, what's the first thing you'd buy?
I would buy like a big mansion and then a Louis Vuitton bag. I'll buy a private jet, donate some money to charity and to my family. But then I would also visit Puerto Rico to like visit my family because my family is big.
I'd probably go to like San Diego or somewhere.
Go on the beach. Where would you go?
Disneyland.
Disneyland, all right.
I might also get like the world's greatest toy.
While those are all splurge-worthy purchases, most of the students said the thing that they would do most with all of that money is give back.
I would buy a ton of sports equipment and give it to kids who need it.
I would give some of it to my grandma and grandpa because they have a trucking company and they have to pay for like their gas and and to like get the trucks around. And I would give some to my mom and dad because my dad and my sister are moving into a new house and we have to like fix it a lot.
And so do you know how much $1 billion is?
No.
Too much to count, right? Yes. And then if you had a large amount of money, which is $1 billion, what would you do with it?
I would give some to charity and I'll spend some for myself for sports equipment.
I really miss my aunt, so I wish I could, I would buy a plane ticket to go to Florida to meet her.
With the drawing being later tonight, the jackpot is sure to continue growing. Danielle Miller, Fox 10 News.
And with that, that ends my Celebrate Excellence. I would tell you that if I do win the Mega Millions, you won't hear from me again. So if you don't see me, know that I won, and I would change my voicemail to say, I'm alive. You won't find me. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Driscoll. Item 6.01, approval of consent agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a move by Ms. Ewers. Second, I got caught up in thinking about the lottery. Move by Ms. Ewers, second by Ms. Trejo. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes unanimously. I just want to highlight item 6.04. We have a donation of just over $1,100 from Thai Foundation, which is our consistent supporter. Thank you for that. Item 7. Oh, yeah.
I saw in the personnel summary that Ms. Denton was retiring. And I just wanted to thank her for her years of great service here in Tempe Elementary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lemon. It will be a very short-lived retirement because I'll be returning under the Retire Rehire program. So it'll be maybe a one-day retirement, I guess it's what it will be. And then I'll be back to work. But thank you for those kind words.
Thank you.
Mr. McGinney, did you? Okay. Yes, I saw that same thing and put a phone call into Mr. McGinney too. I'm like, just clarify for this because I scrolled down to the bottom as well. So, Thank you for that. Item 7.01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the MOU between Tempe Elementary School District and Arizona Board of Regents for and on behalf of Northern Arizona University. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Dr. Driscoll, could you give us a summary quick before we have questions?
Yes, so what we're asking you to approve tonight is a MOU with us and Northern Arizona University for our employees to get a 10% reduction in tuition for attending Northern Arizona University. So it is a perk, a benefit for our employees that are pursuing degrees that they would, if they did with this MOU, if you guys pass, they would get 10% off their tuition through Northern Arizona University.
Ms. Trejo?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I know it's hard. We don't have a light system here, so I got to get here. Thank you so much. Dr. Driscoll, I just want to thank you and the staff who's brought these opportunities for our educators and staff. I know we are looking to explore partnerships, or already are partnering with ASU, the Maricopa Community Colleges, and I know, pipeline for teachers and beyond. So I just appreciate that you guys are continuing to expand our opportunities for educators and staff. So thank you.
Welcome, and we're also trying to get them free tuition. So be on the lookout. We're trying.
Item 8.01, reports from standing committees. Were there? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes unanimously. Item 8.01, reports from standing committees. I don't believe there were, right, over the holidays. Item 9.01, board members' points of information. We are screaming through this thing. Ms. Ewers.
My family doesn't feel like we're screaming through this thing because I saw them exit the building and they got a text from me, no open meeting law, Jordan. I wasn't texting anybody in the building about our meeting. I was texting my family to turn around. So I brought them back in, and you're probably wondering why I was a part of the ceremonies today when I wasn't elected this time. I'd already been elected. But my first day as a school board member was on January 6th. And I met Superintendent Bush at the door at that time, and she said we had to evacuate the building. We're gonna come in, we're gonna do our meeting, we're gonna stay focused, no one else is to come into the meeting, and you've gotta go. And I was like, well, that's a great way to thank my family and my friends for all of the hard work, and I didn't get that chance to do it. So I asked Dr. Driscoll a couple weeks ago if I could have that opportunity. And I wanted to bring in the people who are most important to me. That's my family in that row right there. I get choked up. There's over 80 years of public teaching experience right there in that row. You are seeing a Hall of Famer whose birthday is actually tomorrow, so happy birthday, Aunt T. You're seeing a coach who has sent, Michelle, who has sent kids to the Olympics and been a part of that, not personally on the Olympic team training, but she has grown those children to be that. They have a legacy of children that they have helped raise that are so dynamic and inspiring, and it's because they were dedicated to public education, and my family was dedicated to it, my grandmother, my grandfather. My mother was a school registrar for 15 years, along with making costumes for middle school kids and taking them to New York City for field trips. And I rely on them a lot for their information before making key decisions here, because I'm grateful for the service that they had. And lastly, I have my husband and my son, who are my team. They have been with me through thick and thin. They're so supportive. They understand the mission. And they have made a lot of packets, and they have walked a lot of walks, and they've driven a lot of miles for me. And they have set out in the parking lot with others in this building to make sure that we were safe and protected during school board meetings. And I want to make sure that they know that I so greatly appreciate everything that they've done for me and that they're doing for our children right now. So it just takes an army to do this, and I wanted to make sure that I had that moment. So Dr. Driscoll, President Windsor, I appreciate you giving me that moment to thank them, because it takes an army. We've got kids sitting and grandma sitting going on. I should probably reverse that. Brody watches grandma during the meetings. So I just wanted to say thank you. My other real quick things, tax donation. You can donate up until April. To the schools, $400 as a couple, $200 singly. We would love your donation. You can pick and choose where you want it to go. If you don't know where you want it to go, you can call me. Or I see a principal back there saying, hello, I'll take it. So please, it helps us dollar for dollar. It literally decreases the amount of state taxes that you owe dollar for dollar. And sometimes it even helps decrease the amount you owe because of the donation that you gave. So please be aware of that. I'm probably going to repeat this until April 15th, so get used to it. The other thing is that our schools and our middle schools are having their showcases. I have a lot of parents say, oh my gosh, I didn't know what school to go to. I didn't know where to go. We're going into middle school now. These are your moments. Go tour the schools. Go to these events. They require a lot of organization, and we have teachers and we have parents and we have faculty that stay after to open up the schools for you to see it. So please take an advantage of it so that you can see the great things that we have to offer. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we need to talk to our kids about fentanyl. We were not immune in our community from it, and our kids were not immune from our community from it over the last couple weeks. And it's not just happening to those whose kids hang out with drug dealers. It's happening to kids who think that they might be taking a pill to help them sleep at night that's laced with fentanyl. Or they might have gotten some Skittles on the playground and they thought, ooh, those look good. That's a good candy. It's cheap. It's in a lot of things that our children and our parents and our families can get hold of. So again, it's the number one thing that's killing our children today in the state of Arizona. So I always have to have that speech. I'll continue to have that speech until this problem goes away. So thank you, President Windsor.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers. I'm going to ask Mr. Miller, our new board member, if he would like to have anything to share or say. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Madam President. I suppose I'll just say I've been incredibly grateful for all the support I've had from the staff here. They've been very nice and kind of helping me along here. It's been lovely meeting all the fellow members of the board. They've been very kind. And I am aware of the person that was before me in this chair when I was at the prior board meeting, and I heard each of your words for Patrick and just the affection and the admiration of accomplishment that he had here. I'm aware of the legacy that's here. And so I can only say that I'll do my very best to try to uphold that.
Thank you very much. Any other board members like to speak? Ms. Trejo?
Just an official welcome to the team as well, and we're excited to have you. And I give him a Robert's Rules of Order book. That's a classic. But yeah, so welcome back. I know many of you have already been in the schools already for some time, but this is our first board meeting since, and so let's have a great second semester.
Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd welcome Mr. Miller to our board. Tonight, I'm going to show you how we can spend $1 million. Yes. You'll be the first signature on these warrants, and you probably know what happens to them after Eric sends them on to, I think you work there at the superintendent's office. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. But welcome and thank you for being part of our team.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. And lastly, me, I was thinking about your tax donation statement, and we had a conversation at home with my 10-year-old son about the lottery as well. And I remember when the lottery became legalized. I don't know if anybody else remembers that here in Arizona. The pick was all big. But he told me that his very first thing that he would do if he won would be to make a sizable charitable donation, which, oh, so sweet, right? And he followed that up with because he would need the tax write-off. So, so anyways, I want to thank everybody for just the kindness and like I said, just the faith for me to do this responsibility and for another year. I was never a person who thought I would ever get elected the first time, and I'm shocked that I'm here for a second term. And quite honestly overwhelmed to be in this position for 2 years. And I don't know if you've noticed, I am not very comfortable in the limelight, but it is actually because of the wonderful people here in Tempe Elementary that keep on encouraging me and supporting me and having great conversations of depth and meaning that I keep on coming. And if I could have this as my job, I would do it because I have so loved the people I work with and the reason why we work together. And that's the part that I love the most is every conversation comes back, what's best for kids, which I know is a broad opinion-based conversation, but when you have people who have such good hearts, we all know what's good for kids. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for me, both professionally and personally, to grow in this role. And I'm just so grateful for the faith of the constituents and my fellow board members. So thank you very much for that. Item 10.01, announcements and upcoming events. All schools and district offices will be closed in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday, January 16th, 2023. There will be an agenda committee meeting on January 18th and January 25th at 11:30 a.m. There will be a regularly scheduled governing board meeting on Wednesday, January 25th at 7 p.m. here in the Arredondo Governing Board Room. And the Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held on Monday, February 21st at 8 a.m. at Kiwanis Park. And with that, item 11.01, meeting adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Okay. And
To adjourn.
thank you. And a second? I'll second. Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Trejo. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes unanimously. We are adjourned.